For the first time in Vivid history, we have canceled an entire crowdfunding campaign. We have briefly explained why we did that to the backers of the campaign, but we'd like to warn others about something we discovered with Indiegogo that may surprise you, because it was very much a surprise to us. If you are crowdfunding or supporting creators on Indiegogo, pay attention, because this video will apply to you, and our wallet was definitely hit by this new policy. Automatic tips. Not to the creators, but to Indiegogo itself. Automatic tips that are mandatory to have on every tier of your campaign's checkout page. In the past, a creator could choose whether or not to allow Indiegogo to solicit customers for tips during checkout. But unbeknownst to us, sometime in the past year, that option stopped being optional. The way we discovered this was appalling, and when we expressed this in no uncertain terms to Indiegogo, they just kinda thanked us for our feedback no less than twice. But let's start at the beginning when we first noticed that something weird was going on. During the launch stream for Dreamkeeper Skirmish, the high-level tiers were being snapped up, but something happened where tiers would get claimed, but did not add to the total funds raised on the campaign, something we'd never seen before in nearly a decade of crowdfunding across multiple platforms. Then, in real time, we saw the funds raised section going down, with purchased tiers being subtracted from the campaign. We checked, and this was not a case of customers getting refunds or having issues at checkout, changing their mind. We actually got in touch with one, and they had attempted to check out. Their bank account was charged, but they had no confirmation on Indiegogo of their pledge, and we had no records of them in the campaign backend whatsoever. No checkout, no refund, nothing. This glitch caused from $5,000 to $8,000 of support to vanish from our first hour of the launch. Now, that is not the reason we left Indiegogo. We reached out to them, put our heads together to work with them and our customers and just figure out what was going on. Tech issues are a fact of life? Fair enough. But when we were talking about this with our readers on a live stream, we were notified about a new, completely unexpected issue. Tips were activated on our campaign. But how could that be? We never opted into allowing tips. Yet they were there for our customers. Indiegogo was automatically adding tips to themselves on the checkout screens of our campaigns, with some of the backers having no idea this was happening and others struggling to figure out how to deactivate them. By talking with our readers, we discovered that Indiegogo had been doing this on our campaigns for almost a year at least. Now for starters, I don't want to ask customers for tips when they're in the process of supporting our crowdfunds. They're already backing our production and picking up high-value luxury items. Tipping isn't usually expected outside of face-to-face personalized service. This is why in the past, we always checked no when Indiegogo asked if they could solicit tips on our checkout page. Apparently, Indiegogo has decided to just stop asking and do it anyways. That's obnoxious, but it gets worse. Indiegogo does not ask backers for a tip when they check out. Indiegogo automatically adds a tip to themselves by default. And we're not talking small tips. It ranges from 15 to 50% of the entire cart. Yes, you heard that correctly. 50% auto tips applied with no input from the customer whatsoever. If the customer notices and wants to dodge the tip, well, first they'd have to notice there's been an extra charge slipped onto their order, and then they would have to go to the drop-down menu and change it. On the drop-down menu, there is no option to simply click and remove the tip. If you want to tip higher, that's pretty easy to do, but if you didn't want to tip at all, well, you'd have to click on a sub-menu and customize your tip amount, manually type in 0. Many customers we talked to were confused and they thought the tips were going to us or to the creators they were backing. It just says Indiegogo tip, which many people who backed our campaigns said they understood to mean a tip you provide to the creator through Indiegogo. Nope. When you tip on Indiegogo, not 1 cent of that money goes to the creators, it all goes to Indiegogo itself. The ambiguous wording, combined with the tips being slipped in and activated by default with no immediate option to even opt out, let's be real, none of this user interface is accidental. Indiegogo knows exactly what they are doing. And the results are predictable. Of the customers we talked to, some didn't even notice the tip initially because they just trusted the price that we put on the tier and never pulled out a magnifying glass during checkout. Others were going to jump in at the competitive, limited higher tiers, trying to check out first to make sure they got the rewards they wanted before they sold out, but they stopped cold as soon as they saw Indiegogo adding hundreds of dollars more than they expected onto the checkout because they didn't know why that was happening. Still others thought that we were asking for personal tips and were raising an eyebrow at this departure from Vivid's normal business practices. And some people thought we were asking for tips and then decided to give us tips without realizing that it was all actually going somewhere else. The whole core of the crowdfunding market needs to be trust, and that's one of the things that makes it difficult for indie creators. There's trust issues inherent in the market. It never ceases to amaze me when high-profile internet personalities rake in tons of money and then proceed to forget about that little part where they actually deliver. Customers have been burned on campaigns, large and small, out there. So, especially in this environment, building trust is absolutely critical. Vivid has done our best on that front, fulfilling every last campaign we run, and even rescuing campaigns run by other authors who'd run into some trouble. That's why this Indiegogo tip situation is a deal breaker for us. It would be one thing if they needed more revenue to keep the lights on. Let's say their 5% platform fee just wasn't enough. 7, 8%, whatever works, fine. But this tip system puts too much confusion between us and our customers. We engaged with the Indiegogo support team and were told in no uncertain terms that this tip system was mandatory, with no way for Vivid campaigns to opt out. Well, there is one way to have our campaigns opt out, and that is to take them somewhere new. It's a little scary to cancel our tentpole crowdfunding event right in the middle of game production without a preset landing pad to settle on, but we want to give our customers a clean, straightforward experience, so we're going for it. Vivid now has something brewing that we are really excited about. If you want to follow along, the newsletter link is in the description. Now, does this mean Indiegogo is bad and you should never use it as a creator or back any campaigns on Indiegogo? Well, we are fortunate that Vivid has some cool capabilities under the hood, but not every creator is in the same situation. For a lot of them, Indiegogo or Kickstarter or BackerKit may be their best option. So even if you don't like Indiegogo's tip system, please don't take it out on those authors. We assure you it was not their idea. And if you want to use Indiegogo to run a campaign, then use it, but just be aware of what your backers are seeing and dealing with during checkout. And that's exactly why we're making this video, so as many people as possible are aware of Indiegogo's new tip system and how to manage it. So if you know anyone that uses Indiegogo, share this video around because, like us, they may have no idea that any of this is even going on at all. Indiegogo does not disclose to creators the volume of tips collected on their campaigns. So creators, make sure your customers know that during checkout, A, Indiegogo automatically adds tips to their cart, B, that tip goes not to you, not to the author, but to Indiegogo, and C, in order to deactivate the tip, they must open the drop-down menu and select the manually customizable amount and then type in 0. And then lastly, if you have backed a campaign and already tipped without intending to, there is a way to request a line item refund from Indiegogo to retrieve that tip without you losing your support tier in the campaign. You just have to contact Indiegogo and tell them that you want a refund, not for the whole contribution, but for the tip only. Now, stopping to explain all of that, it's kind of the last thing we want to do when we're offering a new Vivid book or video game to our backers. A lot of people do not have time to just jump through hoops, and we don't want to put them in a situation where we are asking them to do that. So that's why we canceled a campaign for the first time in our entire crowdfunding history, which predates the word crowdfunding. But we're still making the game even as we speak, and Vivid will be building something new to keep production alive. Somewhere backers can see exactly what they want, no strings attached, pick it up, and then boom, it's simple and easy for everybody. So stay tuned for news, and again, if you know anyone in crowdfunding, please pass this video around, because knowing is half the battle.